3 sinister true horrors uncovered on the last day of school. Terrifying encounters await. The excitement in the air was palpable. Children shrieked in delight, their laughter ricocheting off the walls of perfect suburban homes. For single mom Lisa, the last day of school was more than just a break, it was a promise of freedom. But that freedom would not last, as soon she would learn the dark undercurrents lurking beneath their prized community. Just as she was packing up the last of her supplies, 15-year-old Mark burst through the door, face pale and eyes wide. "Mom! I swear I saw something near the playground." His voice trembled. Shadows danced across his features, hinting at a fear that seemed all too real. Lisa, worn from parent-teacher conferences and juggling lesson plans, dismissed him. "It's just your imagination, hon, let us focus on summer." The evening wore on with community barbecues, neon lights turning day into dusk. Lisa laughed, hugged neighbors, and flipped burgers, but something felt off. The local high school coach, a fixture known for his playful banter, stood rigid by the grill, his eyes unfocused and glazed, as if the light inside him had dimmed. An unsettling chill crept into her bones. Then there was Harris, the neighbor with the pristine lawn, backyards of envy. A man once full of pride now cringed at conversation, darting glances like a cornered animal whenever someone approached. It was unnatural, alarming, and terrifying. Whispers snaked through the cacophony of celebration. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. The night draped the neighborhood in a suffocating fog that swallowed familiar sights. Lisa's heart raced as she couldn't shake the creeping dread from the day. Mark twitched beside her, a bundle of nerves, words forgotten. Unmarked dark vehicles prowled the streets, slicing through the night with relentless headlights, ominous threads of fear blanketing the community. A neighbor's potluck, half-finished rumors twisted in the air. Whispers about vanished children left behind, only fleeting shadows of laughter. They spoke of an old chapter in their town, a charm turned threat by past secrets, digging deep into the neighborhood's facade. What had Lisa overlooked? Mark's sweaty palms clutched the paper plate, his breathing quickening. Familiar comfort turned to fear, home shifted from a haven to a hunting ground. Each rustle carried the weight of something dark, lurking just beyond view. She felt it then, a knot of panic tightening in her chest. The air thickened with dread as it sunk in. They weren't safe, not anymore. Shadows darted in the corners of her eyes. Heavy footsteps echoed their surroundings, a pulsating rhythm in the silence just behind them. With mounting terror, Lisa grabbed Mark's arm. They needed to escape fast. As the flickering streetlight ahead beckoned them, Lisa turned to speak comfort to her son, but everything froze. A figure loomed just before them, an all-too-familiar face emerging from darkness. The warmth of familiarity seemed like a cruel joke as the air turned ice-cold. They were being hunted in plain sight, and the chase was only beginning. What other horrifying truths lay concealed in their once safe suburb? Instinct screamed at them to run, but the past was already close behind. Mark's eyes widened in horror as the dim figure stepped closer. It was Coach Bill, but something was terribly wrong. His normally warm presence felt cold and menacing, as if warmth had abandoned him completely. Lisa's grip tightened around Mark's wrist, her heart pounding like a frantic drum. "Coach? Is that you?" Lisa's voice trembled, barely more than a whisper. Bill blinked, but it was as if he wasn't truly seeing them. His lips moved, but no words emerged. Instead, a low, reverberating chuckle broke through the silence. It echoed through the thick fog surrounding them, sending chills rippling down Lisa's spine. There was a flicker in Bill's eyes, a flash of something sinister that sent Lisa's instinct screaming for a way out, Mark pulled harder at her grip. "We need to go, Mom." But the words barely registered above the low tone of urgency that hummed in the air, mingling with their breath. "Run!" Lisa shouted, and they bolted from the flickering streetlight into the darkness. Every step felt like a race against something unseen. Fear clawed at her throat as they dashed toward their house, the familiar path now transforming into a twisted labyrinth of dread. Behind them, the echoing laughter grew louder, a mocking tune that wormed its way into her psyche. She dared a glance back, and her heart dropped. Shadows shifted, pursuing them like a black fog, engulfing everything in their path. "Faster!" she cried, panic mounting as she felt the cold grasp of the otherness stretching toward them. They tore past their neighbors' houses, desperate for the safety of home. The laughter faded, but the dread clung to them, tightening like a vice. They reached their porch. Lisa fumbled with her keys, hands shaking. Time stretched, each tick of the clock inside her head a taunt. She cursed under her breath, adrenaline flooding her system. Finally, the door swung open, and they stumbled inside, slamming it shut behind them. Mark leaned against the wall, chest heaving. What happened to him? The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fear. "I don't know. Something's wrong." Her voice trembled, but she shushed herself, straining to listen. Outside, the laughter stopped suddenly, like a needle scraping against a record. Dreadful silence cloaked the neighborhood. Lisa peered through the window. The street was empty, but dark figures loomed at the end of the block, seeming to pulse and breathe along with the night. The sight set her heart racing again. "What do we do now?" Mark asked, his voice breaking. "What we have to do, we find out what's happening." Just then, a heavy knock echoed through the stillness, jolting them both. The sound was insistent and rhythmic, as if a heartbeat resounded against the door. Lisa felt the ground shift beneath her with fear. "Mom, what if it's him?" Mark whispered, trembling. She glanced at the window, half expecting the figure of Coach Bill to rise from the shadows. They needed answers, but at what cost? With resolve and dread mingling within, she made her way to the door, her heart racing with every step. Taking a deep breath, she pressed her back against the cool wood and whispered, "Stay behind me." As she turned the knob, the world outside held its breath. What awaited them on the other side? The creaking door hesitated before yielding to Lisa's trembling hand. She peered into the abyss beyond, heart pounding in her chest. The world outside was consumed by darkness, a foreboding shadow swallowing any remaining light. Instinctively, her body stiffened. She felt as if she were stepping into a graveyard of whispers and long-forgotten secrets. "Mom!" Mark's voice quivered, cutting through the silence like a knife. She shifted, catching a glimpse of his wide eyes, disbelief and terror dancing in their depths. And then, it came, a sliver of a figure, too tall and too thin, a shape formed by the ink-black night itself. The face belonged to Coach Bill, but this was not the man they once knew. His skin had an unnatural pallor, eyes glinting like shards of glass, and the corners of his mouth twisted into an unnatural grin. It was an eerie reflection of a smile, lacking any warmth, pulling taut across his features. "Lisa." Mark, his voice slithered through the air, cold and mocking. "You opened the door to your destiny." A chill coursed through Lisa's spine, rooting her to the spot. The enticement of the darkness around her tugged at her soul, whispering promises of power and knowledge. But she knew, deep down, that it was a lie, a snare that would ensnare them both. "Stay back!" she shouted, voice slicing the tension. She could feel the shadows closing in, crawling along the walls, an omnipresent threat. He stepped inside, floating almost, as if the ground beneath him couldn't contain his weight. Behind him, the air thickened and darkened, and the remnants of laughter echoed back. Mark's grip on her tightened, the only tether keeping her grounded in reality. "What do you want?" "You're not him," she shouted, her voice wavering. "Not him?" Bill tilted his head, a grotesque mimicry of curiosity. "Maybe you're wrong." Because he was so eager to keep you all safe. So eager, indeed. Lisa's heart raced as a spark of dread ignited within her. Coach Bill was not there to help. Whatever he had become, it was a hollow vessel that harbored something far more malevolent. "Mom!" Mark pleaded, inching closer to the staircase, his eyes darting between her and the imposing figure. "Let us just go through the back." "No!" Lisa hissed back, determination momentarily drowning out her fear. "You can't run, this is about us. We have to face him." Bill's chuckle resonated again, filling the entrance hall with a suffocating haze. "Run? Oh, sweet child, you don't even know what you are running from yet." The shadows began to swirl at their feet, creeping up their legs like icy tendrils. Lisa felt her mind unraveling, a pit of despair opening inside her. She saw visions of screaming faces crowding the edges of her thoughts, dark memories throwing themselves at her, pulling her into their depths. "Focus!" she yelled, grappling for control as confusion clouded her senses. She turned to her son, eyes fierce and unwavering. "We can't let fear win. We need to find a way to understand what is happening here to fight." The shadows pulsed, the room spinning, and for a moment, Lisa felt a flicker of hope. But as she clutched Mark's hand, the darkness swelled, and something deep within whispered that it was already too late. Bill's laughter twisted, resonating in the night as he took a step closer, the anticipation building like a storm. "You think you can resist? There's a reason he chose you." Lisa clenched her jaw, resolving to pull her son closer, to protect him even as her heart fluttered with despair. "What did you do to him?" she demanded, fear igniting into rage. Bill's smile widened, revealing a set of jagged teeth that made her stomach turn. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough." As the shadows swarmed around them, closing in fast, Lisa felt the weight of the truth looming over them like a dark cloud, an answer that could define their last moments. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, echoing like a herald of doom. Where was their escape? They were trapped. Then, a loud bang on the back door rattled through the house, a rare flicker of hope gushing through the tension. "Mom! What if it's help?" Mark cried, eyes wide with possibility. But Lisa knew better. Sometimes, help could be the worst thing imaginable. She glanced back at Coach Bill, whose face was twisted in glee, with secrets dancing just behind his eyes. "Who is it?" she thought, dread seeping back in. As she steadied herself, bracing for whatever was to come, the echoing knock became a pulse, and the answers waited just beyond the door. What if it was worse than they could ever imagine? The door rattled again, resonating in the holding stillness of the room, a primal warning against what lay beyond. Lisa could feel Mark's breath on her neck, hot and quick, a mirror to her own mounting panic. The piercing laugh of Coach Bill split through the air, echoing like a ghost from a nightmare she couldn't escape. "Let us see who it is, shall we?" Bill said, mockingly casual. He drifted towards the back of the house with an unsettling grace, as if the shadows were guiding him rather than any physical form. Lisa's heart thundered in her ears, drowning out everything but the insistent pounding at the door. "Mom, please!" Mark urged, his voice wavering. "What if it really is help?" She swallowed hard, the instinct to run clawing at her gut. But the fear of the figure before her was nothing compared to the uncertainty that loomed behind the door. Lisa took a step forward. "Stay here, Mark. I'll check it out." "No!" he gasped, grabbing her arm. "It could be a trap." His voice faltered, holding back a sob. "You can't leave me alone with him." Lisa's mind raced, calculating the risks as Bill turned his back to them, drawn to the unholy knocking that reverberated through the home. His shape twisted around the corner, hissing with glee. "What's behind the door, Lisa? Secrets? Truths? Or maybe some old friends?" Mark's grip tightened, the terror in his eyes plain as day. "Mom! Enough!" She pulled free from his grasp and crept toward the back door, heart hammering like a drum in her chest. Each step felt like it could summon an army of terrors creeping from the darkened corners of her mind. As she neared the wood, the knocking stopped abruptly. Silence enveloped the space, thick and suffocating, as if the world held its breath. Lisa pressed her ear against the door, heart racing to keep up with the growing dread. Was there anyone there? The air felt charged, electric with possibilities. Should I open it? She whispered to herself, her breath shuddering. Behind her, the shadows flickered, and Bill's voice was a silken brush. You're so close, Lisa imagined the truth hiding beyond that door. All you have to do is welcome it. An icy dread wrapped around her heart. She glanced back at Mark. His face was pale, eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. Maybe we should just. The door crashed open violently, splintering the frame. Lisa stumbled back, eyes going wide as a figure stepped inside. It was her old neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. But this was not the lady Lisa remembered, the warmth gone, replaced by a hollow shell. Help me, her voice dragged like nails against stone, haunting and broken. You have to understand. It's all in the house, the whispers, they want you. Lisa recoiled, instinct screaming that this was wrong. Bill's sinister grin widened, the shadows swirling around him like a dark cloak. Now, isn't that interesting? Another soul loaded with secrets, Mom. Mark shouted, trying to pull her away. We can't listen to her. But Mrs. Henderson continued, her tone layered with madness, if you don't listen, you'll end up like him. She pointed a trembling finger toward Bill, the room thrummed with tension, and a deep, raspy whisper filled the air, curling through their thoughts. Welcome home. Panic ignited within Lisa as surreal visions crashed into her mind, memories of the house, its walls echoing with laughter and cries. Had they really known it? What had it become? The shadows thickened, folding around them, pulling Lisa and Mark back toward the encroaching darkness. Lisa felt the walls press in, a gripping claustrophobia clawing at her sanity. Don't trust her. We need to get away. Mark screamed, but fear-laced desperation, echoing her own panic. A gust of wind howled through, snuffing what little light had entered. As instinct screamed to flee, Lisa felt something shift deep within herself. What if there was a way to fight back, to pull the truth from the very shadows that threatened to consume them? Mark, she whispered, feeling adrenaline burn in her veins, we need to face them together. The house pulsed, heavy with foreboding intent, and just then, she felt a presence behind her. The echoes intensified, the walls were crying for attention. What secrets were hidden here? Would they find the truth? The whisper wrapped around her like a suffocating shroud. The choice is yours, Lisa, it echoed, taunting, drawing from her deepest fears, steeling herself. She knew the answers awaited them, but at what cost? The next decision could change everything. What lay hidden in the shadows of their own home, waiting just behind the veil? The choice between light and darkness hung like a blade poised to drop. The air was thick with dread as Lisa stood frozen, the pulse of the house reverberating through her bones. Mrs. Henderson's eyes glinted with a crazed urgency, but Bill's laughter rang like the tolling of a funeral bell, drowning out everything. Welcome home, he purred, lingering on the last syllable like a serpent tasting the air. Lisa took a hesitant step back, her heart racing with a mix of terror and stubborn resolve. Get away from us. Mark's voice broke through the fog of her fear. He pulled her arm, urging her toward the door, but it felt as if the room tilted, drawing them in deeper. The shadows hissed and coiled like smoke, whispering secrets in a forgotten tongue. No. Mrs. Henderson lurched forward, her skeletal fingers clawing the air. You must know. The walls, they keep them inside. Lisa's throat tightened. Keep who inside? With a jolt, a chorus of whispers filled the room, unseen, light as a breath, but heavy as a tomb. The words slithered around her thoughts, echoing memories long buried. The others. Shut up. Mark shrieked, his eyes wide and glassy with fear. We have to go now. And suddenly, with a force that felt like an explosion, Lisa was flooded with flashes years spent in the house, birthday parties, family dinners, all the dreams that had crumbled to dust. Yet intermingled were fleeting glimpses of chaos, vague shadows darting behind the veil of her childhood memories. Figures twisted and contorted, trapped behind the very walls that had once cradled laughter. "Mom!" Mark's panic broke her reverie. She noticed him backing toward the door, terror warping his face. "We have to," he gasped, looking at the shadows that pressed in, darker and thicker now. Bill cocked his head, eyes gleaming with a devilish charm. "You think running away will save you? The house knows you, Lisa. It knows your darkest fears." Mark shook his head. "Mom, we have to fight. We can't let this thing win." "But how?" The question hung in the air, a haunting echo of her own uncertainty. The malevolent laughter of Bill filled her with sorrow, each note dripping with malice. Mrs. Henderson's voice pierced through, now fractured and pleading. "You can't escape. If you don't confront them, they'll seize you too. They want to pull you into the darkness." The shadows writhed, almost alive, as Lisa felt their cold breath on her skin, caressing her flesh with suffocating pressure. It was a heavy weight, a desperate pull towards something unnatural. She gritted her teeth, gathering her resolve, but doubt gnawed at her insides. "Mark, we have to find a way to break this," she shouted, as determination fueled her. "What if the memories hold the key? What if we confront those shadows?" A flicker of hope ignited in Mark's eyes, yet the encroaching darkness continued its steady advance. "You mean, face the truths they hide? But they want to break us apart. They thrive on fear." "Yes," Lisa cried, but her voice trembled, uncertain. "We can do it as long as we're together. They can't use us against each other." Then the ground began to shake beneath them, a deep rumble that felt like the house itself was coming alive. The air grew colder, suffocating, the shadows thrumming a gruesome melody. Lisa could see them more clearly now. They were faces twisted in agony, screaming silently, trapped in their own despair. Time stretched, each breath hanging painfully long, and she realized that she was at a crossroads. A moment that could consume her, or liberate her from the dark grip of the house. "Mark, we have to jump into the memories and find them. Find the ones calling to us." Before Mark could respond, Bill burst into laughter that echoed through the walls, a sharp knife slicing through their conviction. "Such noble sentiments. Yet you don't even know what you will unleash." And in that instant, a figure loomed before them from the shadows, eyes blazing with hunger, one of the trapped souls. "Help us, help!" it choked out, reaching towards them. Lisa felt her resolve shatter. Could she truly face the terrors entwined within her past, the darkness that had haunted them all? "What will you choose, Lisa?" Bill's taunting tone wrapped around her, suffocating her spirit. With the walls of the house itself crumbling under the weight of her decision, she glanced toward the door. Escape or delve deeper into horror? Could they survive the truth hidden in the enigma? The clock was ticking, and the shadows were waiting. The shadows surged forward, their cold tendrils creeping along the floor, reaching for Lisa and Mark like desperate hands. Every instinct screamed at Lisa to turn and run, yet the pull of the house wrapped around her like heavy chains. Memories flickered, flashing fragments of laughter and joy now twisted into something grotesque. "Lisa!" Mark's voice cut through her fog of hesitation. He squeezed her hand tightly, panic coursing through him. "Now! We have to do it now!" Fear and determination collided in her chest. "Okay. Let us find those memories." Together, they stepped closer to the looming figure, its eyes hollow yet burning, filling her with dread. "Help me," it croaked, as if dragged from the depths of a nightmare. The sound echoed with a haunting familiarity, reverberating like a dark echo of the past. Who are you?" Lisa stammered, trying to push through the suffocating fear. "Remember," the voice twisted, mingling with the whispers of the shadows, each word a jagged dagger. Remember them trapped suffocating. As the figure hesitated, Lisa felt a flood of memories surge through her. She closed her eyes, breath rattling in her throat. Images spilled into her mind, her childhood friends, their laughter, and then it shattered, revealing a vision of darkness. A game gone wrong, an accident they would never escape. Help us! It was her own voice, trapped among the others, calling from the depths of grief. Please! Mark's grip tightened, a shared remembrance igniting something they thought long buried. We were at the old treehouse. We have to go there, Lisa. It knows. The shadows shuddered at the mention of the treehouse, a guttural growl rising within, warning them to stay away. But it was their only chance. She nodded, determination settling into her bones. Let us go, then. We have to push through. Bill stepped forward, dark amusement flickering in his eyes. What a charming idea. But you have no idea what awaits you in the darkness. Ignoring him, they raced past the writhing shadows, the house shuddering as if in pain. They darted towards the door, and as Lisa swung it open, an icy breeze rolled in, shoving them back. The walls sang a haunting melody, voices rising in anger. Leave, leave, no! Mark yelled. We deserve to know the truth. Suddenly, the darkness exploded with blinding light, and the room whirled around them like a cyclone, sweeping them into the abyss. They tumbled, sensations swirling, sounds, sights, grief, the memories flooding over her like a tidal wave. She saw them, the faint outlines of her friends, their faces twisted in terror, trapped in time. They were everywhere, spirits clinging to the edges of her recollections, shadows of their past selves. Help us! They wailed, each cry piercing her heart. It was a desperate plea, a call to arms or to doom. Would the shadows consume them, or would they break free? Stay together! She cried, grabbing Mark's hand as they spiraled into the depths, but suddenly, a sickening twist in her gut pulled her away. She was alone, casting her eyes wide in panic. Mark! Her voice echoed, swallowed by the shadows. Mark! Bill's laughter slithered around her, chilling her to the core. You've chosen the path of memories, Lisa. But do you truly know what you will unleash? As the world around her began to darken, the laughter faded into an ominous whisper, revealing the truth she feared the most. Time to face what you've buried. With dread settling over her soul like a heavy cloak, Lisa realized she was closer to confronting her darkest fears than she had ever imagined. The question lingered, sharp in the air. What horrors awaited her in the treehouse? And would the truth be a balm for their souls or an inescapable nightmare? The world unfolded again, a kaleidoscope of screaming images, faces twisted in a rage against time. Shadows flickered like dying embers around her, their whispers swirling through the chaos. Lisa felt a sharp pull beneath her feet, as if the ground was cleaving in two. Breath came in shallow gasps. Mark, she cried out again, voice wavering against the impenetrable dark. A flicker of light danced nearby, growing brighter until she caught a glimpse of a figure. Was it him? Her heart raced, pounding against her ribs with desperation. She lunged toward the faint glimmer, but it vanished, swallowed by the engulfing shadows. Help us, save us! The voices echoed, and panic clawed at her throat. The familiar sound wove in and out, blending together until all she heard were the cries of those she had loved and lost. A sob caught in her throat. If only she could reach them, but every step felt like sinking deeper into a quicksand of despair. With a surge of courage, she steeled herself, eyes darting in all directions. The blackness felt alive, pulsing, reaching out as if it were a beast ready to devour her whole. I won't back down, she shouted, her voice tinged with raw energy. I will find the truth. Suddenly, a guttural noise erupted from somewhere deep within the shadows. A throaty snarl reverberated through the air, and she realized it was Bill, his silhouette blending into the darkness. You think you can escape the past? It will always come for you. His voice slithered like smoke, teasing, taunting, every syllable a whip of agony against her resolve. the edges of reality began to blur, flickering faster and faster until she could hardly tell where she was. And then, as quickly as it had started, everything ceased. A slow, somber quiet settled around her, but it felt heavy, as if the entire world held its breath. She turned left, right, searching for any sign of Mark. A frigid wind whipped past her, whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. The treehouse. She murmured to herself, trying to cling to the thought. We have to get to the treehouse. It knows. Sliding deeper into the gloom, she felt the weight of memory pressing down on her. Images flickered through her mind, joyful days spent climbing high into the branches, voices echoing beneath the rustling leaves. But that innocence was stained. She could see it now, the laughter distorted, morphing into cries of fear. Lisa narrowed her eyes against the swirling haze. What happened? She half whispered, half screamed, summoning the strength to face the shadows. Tell me. The silence that followed was deafening, thick with spectral anticipation, before a metallic taste filled her mouth. A dull ache pulsed in her head, and then she heard it, the soft rustle of leaves. Her heart raced as she stumbled forward, searching for light, for any hint of what lay ahead. Suddenly, figures emerged from the dark, her friends, frozen in a tableau of horror. Their eyes were wide, their mouths agape, as if caught in a scream that never escaped. Time stood still, and Lisa was enveloped in grief as she recognized their twisted faces wrenched with fear. No, no, she gasped, feeling the weight of their anguish colliding with her own. What do you want from me? A hand reached out from behind her, brushing against her shoulder. She spun around, her heart pounding. Mark? But the hand belonged to Bill, his smile twisted and cruel. You've come back to us, Lisa. Isn't it wonderful? He hissed, and the shadows shrieked in response, closing in, eager to reclaim their lost past. The realization hit like ice water. They had returned, but not to find peace. They were here to consume her. In the fading light, the treehouse loomed ahead, a ghostly silhouette against the chaos. With the last vestiges of strength, she bolted toward it, driven by sheer desperation. Lisa reached out, grasping the splintered wood, pulling herself closer to the threshold. It was now or never. Whatever awaited inside might finally tell her what really occurred that day. But as she stepped forward, a sinister laugh filled the air, echoing off the walls of her past. It was Bill, mocking and triumphant. You think the truth will save you? The agony has just begun. Her heart sank. Before she could react, the ground shook violently beneath her, sending her sprawling down into the abyss, the dark slithering around her feet like serpents. Lisa. The voice rang out again. Was it Mark? Hope flickered even in the darkest shadows. As she tumbled into the darkness, a chilling thought gripped her. What if the treehouse held secrets that should have remained buried? Would she uncover a truth that not even she was ready to face? The shadows were closing in, and time was running out. Lisa hit the ground hard, breath knocked from her lungs, pain shooting through her body like ice. The darkness buzzed around her, the air thick with a sense of impending terror. She lay still for a moment, disoriented, straining her ears to catch anything, a whisper, a cry, anything that would guide her out of this suffocating nightmare. Then, a flicker of rustling nearby stirred her. Heart racing, she forced herself into a sitting position, squinting into the inky blackness. Shadows stretched and swirled like restless spirits. Mark? She croaked, her voice barely audible, lost in the enveloping gloom. The answer she received was a soft giggle, not the laugh of a friend, but the deranged titter of a child twisted by the darkness. Lisa. The voice chirped, innocent yet laced with malice. Come play with us. She shivered, crawling backward. Tears blurred her vision, but she could just see the outlines of small figures forming at the edges of her sight. Children. Ghostly figures, their faces pale and drawn. The laughter continued, echoing off the walls of her memory. Leave me alone. She shouted, scrambling to her feet. The air vibrated with their energy as one of the figures lunged forward, arms outstretched. It was a face she recognized the features of one of her friends, but twisted into something grotesque and unfamiliar. "Help us, Lisa. We need you." "No. I can't," she yelled, stumbling back. But they only moved closer, the shadows reaching out as if to pull her into their tormented reality. The laughter grew more hysterical, taunting. "The treehouse. It calls for you. You can't escape." It hurt to hear their joy eaten away. These were the remnants of innocence, stripped bare of any light, and their voices now sang a death knell in harmony. Each step they took toward her sent her heart into a furious panic, constricting her chest like a vice. "Help us," they chanted, their voices merging into a cacophony of despair. She turned, the treehouse looming before her, adorned with the memories of laughter and light, now reduced to a hollow shell. It seemed to pulse like a living organism, begging her to enter. What was inside? Was there a chance to find Mark, or perhaps a way to bury the nightmares that haunted them all? Clenching her fists, she pushed through the pain, racing toward the gnarled ladder. Once she reached it, she froze, doubt threatening to bind her to the ground. She could feel the eyes of her lost friends on her, cold and accusing. Could she truly face what was hidden inside? What if the truth was more horrifying than the nightmares? With a deep breath, Lisa began to climb. Each step rattled her nerves. The wood creaked under her weight, and the darkness yawned behind her, whispering temptations of safety if she were to turn back. Up she went, fighting back the tide of despair swelling in her chest. The moment she reached the door, it swung open as if anticipating her arrival. Shadows pooled inside, swirling and beckoning. Lisa hesitated, fighting the urge to retreat. And just then, a shriek shattered the air, echoing and lingering like the scream of a wounded animal. "Help us!" The voices cried again, louder, desperate. With her heart racing, she stepped inside. The air was thick, stinging her lungs. The memories washed over her, blurring the line between past and present, joy and horror. Faces flashed before her, each one familiar yet twisted, guides from a time long lost. "Do you really want to know the truth?" A voice growled from the corner, low and dripping with malice. All the air rushed from Lisa's lungs. Who's there?" She stuttered, terror clawing at her throat. But before she could gather her thoughts, a hand shot out from the dark, grabbing her wrist with a grip of steel. It yanked her deeper into the shadows. "What if they're all gone?" The voice whispered conspiratorially, teasingly. "What if you never find them?" Her blood ran cold. The truth contained more than she had bargained for. The treehouse had its own story to tell, a tale soaked in betrayal and loss. As she struggled against the grip, the laughter began again, echoing around her, menacing and mocking. "You've come home, Lisa. Welcome to your nightmare." In the darkness that enveloped her, she realized the fateful question: would she be brave enough to face the horrors lurking in the heart of the treehouse, or would she lose herself forever in the depths of despair? The grip tightened on Lisa's wrist, pulling her closer, dragging her further into the darkness. She gasped, her pulse racing like a frantic animal trapped in a snare. The whispers intensified, weaving in and out like a frenzied chant surrounding her. "Join us. Stay with us," they called, a chorus of lost souls blending into one terrifying voice. "Let me go," she screamed, yanking her arm, but the hand only tightened, cold and unyielding. The air felt charged with a suffocating weight, pressing down on her chest, squeezing the breath from her lungs. Laughter filled the room, echoing against the wooden walls, bouncing back at her like a cruel reminder of what had been lost. Shadows danced mockingly around the edges of her vision. Each fleeting shape moved with purpose, knowing secrets she had yet to uncover. "Do you remember us, Lisa?" the voice hissed. It was young yet rife with age, the tones of a child entwined with ancient despair. "You promised promises?" The faded memories twisted in her mind, like barely legible sentences scrawled in the margins of a forgotten book. She couldn't focus. Panic clawed at her throat, constricting her voice. She felt the walls closing in, the past suffocating her present. I don't remember anything. Lisa gasped, desperation coloring her words. The hand released her abruptly, and she stumbled back, feet scrambling against the splintered floorboards. The shadows converged, merging together to form faces tormented, accusing, eyes full of sorrow. Disfigured smiles twisted across their features, cruel reminders of childhood joy snatched away. Lisa, it's your fault. A voice wailed, piercing through her. The weight of their accusations hung heavy, the dark gravity of their loss pleading for her to acknowledge their suffering. You left us. You forgot. Remember the treehouse? We were supposed to be safe. Cold sweat dripped down Lisa's back as her mind raced. She was losing track of what was real and what was nightmare. The laughter morphed into cries of anguish, a symphony of despair that sent chills up her spine. Images began flashing in her mind, the vibrant colors of a sunny day, footsteps echoing, voices of her friends that now lay silent. No! She cried, clutching her hands to her ears, but the sound seeped through, piercing her resolve. You're all gone. I can't. Suddenly, the figures lunged forward, their expressions shifting from grief to rage. The truth is hidden. The treehouse holds everything, they screamed in unison. Find it. Before she could react, the ground trembled, the old wood creaking ominously beneath her. The entire structure felt alive, breathing, vibrating with a wicked pulse that echoed the frantic beat of her heart. The shadows coiled at her feet, beckoning her toward a trapdoor in the center of the floor, slightly ajar, darkness spilling out like an omen. What's down there? She whispered, fear-stricken. Your answers. The voices chimed, dissolving into a frenzy of laughter, then falling silent, leaving only the echo of their madness in the air. Lisa stood frozen, dread pooling in her stomach. Should she confront whatever lay beneath? Was it the key to understanding her past or the final descent into madness? The whispers wrapped around her like a thread, urging her, pleading with a desperation that sent shivers down her spine. With shaking hands, she stepped toward the opening, drawn by the darkness. But just when she was about to peer inside, the door slammed shut, reverberating with thunderous finality, sealing her fate. Lisa. It's not over. The voice slithered back into the shadows, taunting her. You will never escape. Breathless with terror, she backed away, knowing now that her journey in the treehouse had only just begun. The real horrors awaited, and they were ready to be unleashed. What lay beyond that door remained a terrible secret. Would Lisa have the courage to unearth what was buried beneath the earth, and would she survive the truth that was waiting to drag her into the dark? The darkness twisted around Lisa, suffocating and thick. Shadows pulsed, their energy almost alive, pushing her deeper into the void of her past. Panic coursed through her veins, igniting a flame of desperation. The laughter of her friends echoed, distorted by grief and rage, calling her to confront what lay buried inside the treehouse. Lisa. Wake up. The voice was sharp and urgent, Mark's voice, breaking through the smoke of despair and pulling her back to reality. Mark. She gasped, and with a rush, the memories faded, her surroundings shifting as if the world were spinning back into place. But the whispers remained, clawing at her mind. The truth. Focusing on Mark's face, pale and frantic, she felt resolve boiling up inside her. They had to face whatever was holding their past captive. We need to find what's hidden here, she said firmly, her voice gaining strength. But how, Mom? Mark's eyes darted around, filled with unshed tears. Together, she insisted. If we face this as one, we can put the pieces together. They stepped closer to the trapdoor, heartbeats sinking, the shadows shrieking in anger. The air felt charged, each breath heavy with the weight of their memories. Nerves quivered, but Lisa knew they had no choice. This was their path to freedom or their doom. Together, they pushed against the door. It groaned and creaked, but finally, it swung open, revealing a dark staircase spiraling down into the depths. Cold air wafted up, carrying with it distorted echoes of laughter mixed with cries. "Here goes nothing," Lisa breathed as she gripped Mark's hand tighter, stepping into the unknown. Each step resonated with a deep pulse that felt like the heartbeat of the house. Wrapping around them, they descended, the light behind them dwindling until they stood on the edge of complete darkness. The air felt thick, as if it pressed down on them, suffocating. But they pressed on, determined to confront what lay below. Then, shadows slithered along the walls like living creatures, whispering secrets that twirled around them like smoke. As the final step clattered beneath them, the darkness pulled away to reveal a dimly lit room filled with remnants of childhood, toys, clothes, and a familiar blanket that looked eerily like one Lisa had given her daughter long ago when she was younger. It was a graveyard of memories, every object a whisper of what had once been a bittersweet reminder of joy twisted into sorrow. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Bill, no longer just a specter of their past but a living nightmare, eyes glowing with malicious intent. "Welcome back. You shouldn't have come here." His voice echoed, shaking the very foundation of their resolve. In that moment, Lisa remembered everything: the day of the incident, the laughter in the treehouse fading into the sounds of screams. You did this." Her voice was steady, filled with the force of the truth she had hidden for way too long. "Did I?" Bill stepped closer, his expression twisted into a cruel smirk. "It's the house that hungers for your fear, your pain. It thrives on your memories." But Lisa stood firm, recognizing the echoes of her own voice rising above the shadows. "We're not afraid anymore. We're here to bring you to justice for what you've done." Mark nodded, summoning his courage. "You took them from us, but we won't let you take us too." To her surprise, the shadows flickered as if recoiling from their words, unsure. The laughter became gasps of disbelief, turning the wondrous darkness into fright. Sensing their moment of power, Lisa and Mark leaned in closer, united against the embodiment of their trauma. With fierce determination, Lisa stepped forward, holding her son's hand like a shield. "We remember. We acknowledge our pain, and we will not let it control us any longer." Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "We forgive. We let go." The air crackled with energy, and a blinding light erupted from within her, love and loss converging, flowing deep and wide. The walls trembled, the foundation of the house shaking, and Bill's cruel smirk twisted into a mask of anguish. "No. You can't," he howled. The shadows began to retreat, lost souls reaching out one last time. In that shining moment, everything changed. The darkness faded, revealing the faces of the children, lost, no longer twisted but finally at peace as they smiled at Lisa and Mark, expressions of gratitude and relief washing over them. "Thank you," the voices said, mingling together, blending with the air, and just like that, the shadows shrank and folded in on themselves, merging with the light. As Bill's laughter was swallowed whole, replaced by a deep silence, Lisa gasped, and the darkness that had once consumed her seemed to lift as if the weight she had carried for so long evaporated. Holding her son, she felt his warmth anchor her. As light enveloped them both, when they emerged from the darkness, the treehouse was just a fragment of their past, but now it stood as a monument of triumph, every shadow disintegrated into rays of sunlight. Hand in hand, they walked away, the warmth of summer surrounding them like a loving hug. The laughter was back, but now it was pure, untainted. "We did it, Mark," Lisa smiled, turning to look at her son's face, filled with light and hope. "Yeah, Mom. We really did," he replied, the weight of their journey falling away. As they stood together on the threshold, watching the sun set, Lisa couldn't help but feel that they had stepped into a new beginning, free from the nightmares of the past. And finally, she could breathe safe and sound, ready to embrace the life ahead of them. Now, this is your moment to take a final step. You need to subscribe now to never miss out on the next wild adventure coming your way. Smash that like button now. Your support fuels this journey through every story. Flood the comments section and share your reactions, your theories about how it all ends, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who are craving a daring conclusion. Only true fans understand how vital your support is to this channel, so make it count.